President Biden was on Capitol Hill yesterday making the case for his two-track infrastructure plan. This came just a day after Senate Democrats reached a $3.5 trillion spending agreement. Biden also hosted a group of bipartisan governors and mayors at the White House to discuss the strategy for passing a $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure deal. And joining us now is one of the mayors in that meeting, president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, the mayor of Dayton, Ohio, Nan Whaley. Nan, Mayor Whaley, it's great to have you on the show this morning. Tell us how the meeting went yesterday. Were you satisfied with what you heard? And give a sense from your perspective of what is really needed in terms of infrastructure on the ground in cities across America.
Well, Mika, it was a robust meeting. I think around 70 minutes spent with the president and vice president of a bipartisan group of mayors and governors to really talk about what we're most interested in getting done in our communities. We are leading at the U.S. Conference of Mayors a bipartisan effort with Oklahoma City Republican Mayor David Holt and myself to make sure we get this message to our congressmen and to senators. And specifically in Ohio, we are in much need of roads and bridges work, like everybody else across the country. I think the Brent Spence Bridge that connects Ohio to Kentucky has been talked about for almost a decade and is in dire shape for our logistics and movement across the two states. But also public transit and rail transportation, passenger rail transportation, because frankly, you don't have passenger rail in Ohio, and you can't get across the country if you really don't go through Ohio. So, this connection, this ability for our communities to get people to jobs is really affecting our ability to grow our workforce, get good paying jobs in our community. And we see an opportunity to have a bipartisan solution, and we want it to get done. Mayors across the country don't have the luxury of waiting or looking away. We've been using our local resources, and they are very, very thin when we talk about infrastructure spending.
Mayor Whaley, it's Willie Geist. It's good to have you on the show this morning. I'm curious, as you have those conversations about what needs to happen in American cities, it's important to hear from the mayors who are actually on the ground doing the work and seeing the problems with their own eyes. What is your assessment of the state of crime in Dayton and how that folds into police reform? We've been talking a lot about New York City. We were talking earlier about our major cities and how we sort of bring together these two ideas that there's a need and a desire for police reform, but also rising crime in our cities. How do you put those two together?
Well, I think they're really actually easily to be held and in hand together, across the country, not just in big cities, but in rural areas and suburbs all across the country. We are seeing a rise in gun violence. And when I first actually became the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, the first thing we did was send a letter to the Biden White House, saying, hey, this is the list of things that we think we can be in partnership to do more around the issue around gun violence. A lot of that had to do with partnerships with DOJ. Less than a week later, the president responded with ways that we asked to have that help. So we're really grateful for this really strong partnership we're seeing between the White House and cities across the country. But look, in Dayton, we know that police are a key part of public safety. And I think what we're seeing in our communities across the country is people want to be safe. They want police officers, but they want to be treated with respect, and they want to be policed in a different kind of way. And so like in Dayton, like other cities have done, we're looking at, putting in place alternative response models. So when you call 911, perhaps you don't get an armed officer, perhaps you get a mental health provider is what you really need. And I think that this look that the community demands appropriately to be policed differently and to be policed fairly will help together with the issues of our violence issues across the country. So as mayors, you have to hold both ideas in your hands at the same time. It's not the most favorite place to sit, but that is what leadership is. And that's what we're seeing from America's mayors across the country in this issue.
Madam Mayor, it's Kasie Hunt. Let's talk politics for a second. We've covered on this show quite a bit the Senate race in Ohio with J.D. Vance and the Republican kind of race to be as Trumpy as possible to win that election. But you are running for governor coming up here in a year or so. Is Ohio now a solidly Republican state, never to be run by Democrats again, or not yet?
Well, clearly, Kasie, I think not yet, right? I think there's a great opportunity to talk to regular voters and regular people in Ohio. And that's why I decided to run for governor. I mean, I think what's going on in Ohio is people feel forgotten and left behind. And I don't blame them in a lot of cases. For example, in Ohio, we've had 3 decades of Republican leadership in our state house that has been called by the FBI the most corrupt state house in the country. Of course, they're being forgotten and left behind because of the self-interest and self-dealing that's been happening in our state house. We got very close in the governor's race 4 years ago, almost won like by 3 points. So this is a state that is more moderate than I think it gets credit for. But I do think there's a sense of anger and frustration in the state that people are working harder, getting paid less, and their kids have to make decisions like not being able to find a good job to stay near their family or to move out of the state. And we deserve better than that. And I think the Democrats give a message with President Biden to really show a way forward of how our communities can get stronger. I think that's why this infrastructure plan is so important. This creates good paying jobs where we can build back better states like Ohio, and that will make a great difference.
All right, Mayor of Dayton, Ohio, Nan Whaley, thank you so much for being on the show this morning and for serving. Thank you for everything you do. Still ahead.